Welcome back to my channel History with Hansa. We are doing a series of lectures on the postmodern period, and in this video we will talk about how trade flourished in this period and urban centers prospered. So the postmodern period was perhaps the most prosperous in terms of expansion in trade networks and increase in the number of urban centers. The major route in North India connected the centers in the northwest with ports along the Bengal coast. Linked to this were several other routes and the southern route that led to the Deccan and South India. In addition to urban centers, Buddhist monastic establishments were also located along these routes. This was because of the supportive role that Buddhism played at this time. This was also the period of increased demand from foreign markets, especially those of the Mediterranean region. Trade contacts with Central Asia and China opened up routes for the spread of Buddhism, and several Buddhist monasteries were carved in rock along the routes. Linked with Southeast Asia were also being forged, and archaeological excavations are providing increasing evidence of these. Now, we find that there was an increase in trading activity in the postmodern period, and we will look for the reasons for this increase. First of all, agriculture was now generating enough surplus. It had created such social classes which required varieties of items that could be acquired only through trade. Agricultural produce was itself now an item of trade because the majority of people living in cities did not produce their own food. Secondly, both Buddhism and Jainism, which had a large following by now, encouraged the accumulation and reinvestment of wealth, and trade was one of the occupations held in high regard. So there was a close relationship between the traders and the Buddhist Sangha, and Buddhist monastic establishments were located at important points along trade routes. Another reason for increase in trading activity during the postmodern period was that the expansion of urban centers meant that there was a growing class of consumers for subsistence as well as luxury goods. At the same time, there was an increased demand from outside for various Indian goods. Two major empires that arose at this time were the Roman Empire in the west and the later Han Empire in China. Within the Roman Empire, there was a greater demand for products of the East, such as spices, aromatic woods, etc. Similarly, the rulers of the later Han Empire adopted an encouraging approach towards merchants of during this period, and this resulted in an acceleration of contacts between India, Central Asia, and China. Now we will look into uh, how merchants and craftsmen flourished during this period. A large number of inscriptions have been found at Buddhist sites all over the country. These inscriptions record donations and gifts made to the Buddhist Sangha, but at the same time, they also indicate the prosperity of certain professions and occupational groups. So the inscriptions at Mathura refer to several categories of merchants such as Vanik, Sarthavaha, and Sreshtin, and to occupations of the goldsmith, jeweler, treasurer, etc. In addition, there are references to guilds. Information about craftsmen and guilds is also available in early Buddhist literature as well as in the Arthashastra of Kautilya. There are references to specialized groups living together in certain villages. When we talk about the important crafts during this period, weaving was prominently represented among the crafts, and cotton textiles were exported from India. There were many centers of textile production in the north, including Mathura and Varanasi. Other categories of craftsmen included jewelers, perfumers, etc. Ujjain was an important bead making center in the north, and here beads were made of semi precious stones, glass, ivory, and terracotta, and these were in great demand from several centers in the north. Workers in ivory figure in the inscriptions at Sanchi, and exquisite examples of ivory working have also been preserved. Now we will look into the details of trade. First, we will talk about internal trade and then external trade. For internal trade, literary sources such as the Milind Panha and the Jatakas, they provide information on the organization of trade networks. Further confirmation comes from archaeological artifacts such as coins, seals, and sealings. So first we talk about the organization of trade. Traders were organized into guilds, and the terms used for different types of merchants are also varied. For example, a Vanik was primarily a general trader, while a Sethi was a financier, and a Sarthavaha was a leader of a caravan which transported goods over long distances. Then seals and sealings. In addition to literary references, is the evidence of seals and sealings. A seal is a stamp either inscribed with the name of its owner or with some symbol, while its impression on any material is called a sealing. Now, seals were made in a variety of materials such as stone, ivory, copper, or lead, and were used both as identification marks as well as for securing merchandise. Now, let us talk about the coinage system. A good indicator of trade transactions is the coinage system. And in the post-modern period, the variety, number, and types of coins being minted increased rapidly. Inscriptions were introduced on coins, and the technique of minting coins showed great improvement. The Indo-Greek kings in the northwest introduced a splendid series of portrait coinage, a type that was followed in India for several centuries. These coins in silver and copper carried bilingual inscriptions written on one side Greek language and script, and on the other in Prakrit, generally in Kharoshti script. In Western India, the coins of the Kshatrapas are important because these show the earliest use of coins, which provides a firm basis for dating as well. And another remarkable coin series of the early centuries is that of the Kushanas. In addition to these, in copper, the Kushanas minted a large number of gold coins, and the abundance of coin types and coinage systems definitely indicates the extensive use of money. Together with the indigenous coins, foreign coins, especially Roman coins, also came into the country by way of trade. Now we'll talk about external trade. First, the maritime trade. One of the great works that tells us a great deal about early maritime trade is the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea. And we also know about the commodities that were traded at each port from the account of the Periplus. Now, there were two major ports to which trade goods were sent from the centers of North India. They were Barbaricon at the mouth of the Indus and Bharuch at the mouth of the Narmada. These were routes along the Indus that connected Barbaricon with Punjab and Gandhar. Okay, so Bharuch and Barbaricon, these were important ones. Then about imports, the Periplus tells us that the imports in the north included frankincense, glass vessels, money, some wine, etc. Different varieties of glass objects made by the Romans were highly valued in many countries, including India and China. And so far, very few gold and silver Roman coins have been found in North India, although a large number of them have been found in Peninsular India. About exports, the exports from India were spices, precious stones like turquoise, lapis lazuli, and carnelian. There were many partners in this trade, including the Arabs, Jews, Romans, etc. Many of the products of China were traded along the land route to to India. Now, there were also contacts with Central Asia, China, and Southeast Asia. Information about these is to be found in the histories written at that time. And it is generally accepted that together with merchants, Buddhism also spread to Central Asia and China around this period. But we know very little about early trade with countries in the Southeast Asia, such as Burma, Thailand, and Indonesia. This is so because no early written record or no early written texts are available in these countries, and hence our only source of information are archaeological excavations. The principal trade routes. Bactria in North Afghanistan was the main center for the international trade with Central Asia and China. Within the Indian subcontinent, there were two major routes mentioned in different sources. The first one was the Uttar Path or northern route, which connected the major centers of the north, and the other was the Dakshin Path, which linked the centers of peninsular India. The Uttar Path originated at Pushkalavati and went via Takshila, Mathura, Kaushambi, and Varanasi to Patliputra. From Mathura, another route branched off westward to Sindh, and Mathura was also connected to Ujjain. A third route ran parallel to the river Indus and connected Takshila to Patala at the mouth of the river. Urban centers also prospered during this period, and we get information about the urban centers of North India from descriptions found in the early Pali and Sanskrit texts. The best sources for the purpose are, however, archaeological excavations conducted at the important urban sites, and they tell us in detail about the way the houses were constructed and the implements and other artifacts used by the people who lived there. Fortification walls have been identified at many sites, and the use of burnt bricks was also known. At the same time, we find that there was an increase in the number of urban centers. Excavations have revealed many flourishing settlements of this period. For example, we have Ahichhatra in Bareilly district, which was the capital of the North Panchalas. Rajghat in Varanasi has provided evidence for ivory working and the manufacture of textiles at this time. Vaishali yielded a large number of clay seals and ceilings, many of them belonging to traders and artisans. Two important sites in Bengal were Tamluk and Chandraketugarh. Excavations at Chandraketugarh showed that the site was surrounded by a mud rampart, while Tamluk was a port town providing an outlet to traffic along the Ganga. Further west was a fortified settlement at Ujjain, which was also famous for its bead making industry. Now, when we have talked so much about the internal trade, external trade, principal trade routes, an important aspect to be discussed here is the role of religion in trade. Now, Buddhism provided encouragement to traders and was also patronized by a large number of occupational groups. And we get information on this from inscriptions found at several Buddhist sites. These are records of donations made by kings as well as by a cross section of the population. We also know that the important Buddhist monasteries were located along the trade routes at this time. A major center was the region around Takshila, where several Buddhist monasteries were located, and here a distinct style of art known as the Gandhara art developed under the Kushanas. A second stronghold of Buddhism was the region around Mathura, which was equally famous as a center of art also. Another large Buddhist center was at Sanchi. Merchants from many centers in the Deccan and the north traveled to Sanchi and made donations, and their inscriptions are significant indicators of the roots. At the same time, there are also references and inscriptions to money given to feed Brahmanas and to the performance of Vedic sacrifices. Early images of Shiv and Vishnu dated to the Kushana period have also been found. So, this was all about the development of trading activities in the post Mauryan period and also how urban centers developed, which contributed to the prosperity of the period. Thank you so much for watching the presentation. Thank you so much.